Don't worry if you're late. She's got plenty of time. Here's your look at the NECA toys. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Renet, Regular, and Signature Edition. Based on the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic books from Mirage by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, this apprentice time master prefers playing hooky to hitting the books and meets the turtles while skipping out on her studies. But Renet has a lot to learn before she becomes a mistress of all time and proceeds to lead them on merry misadventure. This Renet action figure stands approximately 6 inches tall, includes a soft goods cape, interchangeable heads and hands, time scepter, assorted weapons, and more. Now, before we go looking at the timstress in training, first I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA that did provide, taking the time, with time scepter and all, to send over the regular released version of Renet. That's the one to the left that's wearing the all-brown outfit with the red cape, and also took the time to send over the signature edition, the one that has more of the closer color scheme to the original Mirage comic run and the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon. We are, of course, going to be having a look at them at the exact same time, simply just because their accessories are, in fact, the same, and they're sharing the same bodies. Cosmetically, they're done differently. Cosmetically, they're also approaching different versions of Renet. But again, we're going to be looking at them at the exact same time. Bringing in now the tape measure. Boy, that was long-winded. We're going to measure only just one Renet, simply just because they're the exact same figure to one another, including the cowl piece, the headpiece that she wears. Renet, and in this case, actually both the figures are going to be standing 5 3/4 of an inch tall, or Renet stands 15 centimeters in height. Seeing as we're also tackling a character that's pulled from the pages of a Mirage comics after all, it probably would make no sense to bring in a cartoon turtle from NECA, so instead what I did was I go back to my shelf where I have all my older Mirage comic turtles, and I wanted to bring in this case, probably would have made more sense to bring in Michelangelo, but the one that I grabbed at least for this comparison is Leonardo. Leonardo is going to be a slightly smaller figure, obviously. I know I'm stating the obvious, but this figure, in the size that he is, only manages to go about to the shoulders of both the Renets bookend on either side of him. If you don't technically count the scarf piece that goes around her neck, or you don't count the hands that come included with the figure to be swapped out with, both the accessories that come included with the regular retail release of Renet and the one that comes included with the signature edition Renet are exactly the same. Don't believe me? Shame on you. You should always believe the person that's behind the camera, most of the time at least. First of which, the figure comes included with daggers. And I say daggers technically, but really only each one of them come with one dagger apiece. The daggers, just to show you though, are exactly the same, sharing both the same paint on the hilts. The guards are same done in gold, and there's also a nice line of gold running up the middle of each of the blades. The figures also come included with the scrolls. The scrolls are neat little accessories, and I'm glad to see that we get stuff like this to come included with the figures. And no, I may not necessarily have them displayed with either one of the Renets. These are nice little pieces to go along with any one. I might even consider just to display these with some of the turtles. Oh, there's an idea. You can see that they're painted nicely in yellow, and like the Renets that we're about to have a look at, some nice additional comic-inspired panel lining has been added into both the cases as well. Now, you can't hold the scrolls with some of the hands being swapped out. Just to grab the retail release, for example, this one I did swap out already, and you can take the scroll and put it into one of her hands just by the handle alone. And if you did rinse and repeat and did the exact same thing then on the other side, you'd be able to actually have her holding the scroll in both the hands. I didn't do that, though. What I will do, though, is I'll show you the rest of the accessories that come included with her as well. To move those aside, the figures both come included with time scepters. You know they're time scepters by the fact that they have the hourglasses here on the top. You can't actually tip them down and have the sands running out on you, but at least they have some really nice coloring going for them. I love the way the hand holds the actual, of course, the hourglasses. I think that's such a cool touch. They're nicely well painted, too. If hopefully you can actually see them. There's one of them, at least, and the other one is identical to that. Some nice lighter yellow being added. Of course, the hands themselves painted well in brown with some additional gray added to the fingernails also. The handles themselves are similar in gray, as you can see, and there's some additional coloring of the lighter yellow added down below of the scepters. Again, believe me, can be held in her hands. The figure also comes included with the one that may jar some of you that you may not recognize right away. The figure comes included with Lord Simultaneous. Lord Simultaneous is the master of time in the 79th level of the dimension of null time. That's a bit of a mouthful. Basically, as you can see, well, not that you would be able to see, but it's slightly translucent. It would probably be easier to see if, in fact, I ran a light source inside of it. Both the heads of Lord Simultaneous seem to have standard socket joints. In other words, you'd be able to put this on a regular turtle figure. Or what you can also do, too, if you happen to have any of those NECA headstands, as we had looked at in an earlier review years ago, you probably could even just attach these onto those posts. It'd be a little jarring, mind you, to have a head looking like it's been decapitated and sitting on the top of a post, but still you'd be able to do that as well. I mean, the heads are exactly the same to one another. I would like to have seen maybe a post coming included with the figure because, again, like, short of you just holding this, you can only hold this so long on a shelf. It'd be nice if they could have included like little posts, and then you could have been able to have them displayed on either side of Renet. Either way, though, putting those to the side. The figures then come included with also the exact same hands, though the colors are going to be changed. The figure hands, for example, are closed fists. The figure hands, for example, are gripping hands. And she also comes included with a gestured hand as well. She basically comes with a pair of everything we just looked at. Swapping out the hands, I've already taken the liberty of swapping out one of them. And I did want to have them swapped out so at least they're somewhat going to be holding the weapons on the exact same side of the figure's body. But to change the hands, one thing I certainly will say is be careful when you're wiggling these off. These hands sit on, well, in fact, it'd probably be easier just to show you on one of the hands here. Just want to show you the way the hands are designed. They're on tiny little pegs. And I'm only demonstrating this, but imagine this was sitting inside the socket of the forearm, which I've already done on both the cases. But when you were wiggling this back and forth, this may be very prone to actually separating itself. See, on either side, it's all sort of like a sandwiched hamburger. The buns, if I can describe it that way, can easily wiggle off the post. So you just be careful when you're wiggling this off. If there's any bit of restrictions or resistance, by all means, stop what you're doing. Calculate what you can be doing, and then of course just running either a hairdryer or even a hot water trick will help to free the hand with the peg. Don't try to wiggle it if you feel like there's something stopping you to do it. And of course, this version of Renet, the blue version, does come included with the exact same hands. I have, again, full disclosure, swapped out at least this side of her figure's body. So of course, then I'd be able, in this review, show you that she does have the means to hold the weapons. One other thing that the figure comes included with has more to do with the way that when you do swap out the heads, but she does have sort of a pull-down scarf. This goes on the bottom of her neck, and this will be more beneficial, certainly, when you do change out the figure's head sculpts. Red for, of course, the retail release. Blue for the signature edition release. I still like the blue myself. These are made of, by the way, very soft plastic. Squishy, squishy. We're going to change heads on at least one of them, and I'll show you guys what that looks like in a second. First, in the meantime, let's go ahead and pick up the retail-released Renet. I really like the head sculpt on this one quite a bit. This looks so crazy, and I love the designing of Renet's costuming. First of all, she's got these clocks, watch faces all over her body, or at least the parts that she's wearing clothing. On the back, she also has that as well. If you're somebody that has that phobia where you don't like a lot of holes all so close together, maybe this might make you a little nauseous, but it's really neat the fact that each one of the clocks do actually have an hour and minute hand, really nicely detailed. And again, I did say that you can swap out either one of the heads. I, for myself, have probably decided to go with the retail release to swap the head out because I did want to keep actually the Mirage version of Renet with the actual headpiece on and still intact. The headpiece, by the way, can be removable. You just remove that. It works more from friction, so when you do push it down on Renet's head, you can actually do the blizzard test, tipping that upside down, and the headpiece isn't going to be going anywhere. It's got some really nice coloring going for it. Mostly done here in red, but then brought in there as well. Some nice lighter yellows, some nice panel lining. Works so well for these figures. And just again, to show you the difference, they are exactly the same head sculpt, just different palettes. Choose the palette you prefer the most. I still like the blue because, again, like me, myself, loving the Mirage comic run of Turtles, I like more and kind of gravitate more, I think, to the blue version of Renet instead of the red. But the red does work quite well, too. She looks, in this color scheme at least, like something we would expect to see from, not maybe Buck Rogers, but what's the other one? Flash Gordon. Something maybe, yes, from Flash Gordon. I would almost expect a character to be wearing something like this. But if you did want to change out the head, it would be best advised first to remove the headpiece. Put that to the side. And then go ahead and just reach the head and remove it from, divorce it from the rest of the neck. And then you're going to want to take the scarf piece. It's kind of more just the collar piece than anything else. And I believe it goes where the larger piece is obviously here in the back. And then just take then the defaulted head, or I guess it would be the head that sits along with the figure in the tray, and just pop it back onto the ball joint. Now, this is a version of Renet, obviously, that does have now the headpiece gone altogether, but it gives you a good chance to see some really stellar sculpting here for the hair. The hair has several different shades of yellow, more darker of the yellow on the sides of the head, and lighter yellow here to the top. And again, some nice panel lining added not only to the cheeks, the eyes, the eyebrows, and even to the top of the lip as well. Just want to make sure I've got that all the way on there. Again, when you do compare the two figures, it does benefit actually to kit both figures in your collection because, for myself at least, I would like to display Renet's here with the unhelmeted head, and then one more the traditional route of the blue, the one that actually has the timepiece, the headpiece that she wears. But as you can see, like outfit-wise, they're exactly the same to one another. The blue, I will say, does allow then the watch faces, the individual faces of the clock, to pop a little bit more. You can see as well some additional scaling that they've also panel lined there as well. The bracelets and the gloves are identical, short of just changing the color palette, of course. And again, when it comes to the boots, the retail release would have had then the brown boots. The Mirage or the signature version of Renet would have had more the white boot instead. The white certainly does allow the black to pop a little bit more. And of course, on the bottoms of the figure's feet, I'm kind of be careful because I don't want to drop, although this stays still pretty good indeed, but you can actually still attach a display stand under the bottoms of either one of Renet's feet. The last thing I certainly did want to talk about, I'm just going to put down retail version Renet. And again, picking up the signature edition, the last thing I did want to talk about before we start tackling the figure's articulation is that both Renets actually do have a wireframe cape. It starts in the middle, and it works down. It splits on either side and goes all the way down the actual cape. The cape is actually nice. I really like the look of the cape. You can see the seam line that they've stitched on the sides as well, but it's a really nice material that they've used. Blue, obviously, here for the signature edition, the red for the retail release. And, I got to say, just before we actually get down to the articulation on both the figures, and again, I'll probably only just look at the one of them because they're going to be exactly the same to one another, even though I do like this one a lot more because it reminds me more of the Mirage comics. Like, the color scheme works really well on this one, too, and the pop of the red on the cape, especially with, of course, this swapped-out head, definitely I think there's a lot of mileage to be made by picking up both and adding them to your collection space. That being said, you know what? Let's go ahead and grab this one because we didn't spend enough time talking about this one. We'll look at this one when it comes to the articulation of the figure. Renet with this head sculpt piece. You just want to, again, be weary of the actual, of course, this part right here. Maybe, you know what we'll do is we'll take that off for right now just to also show you as well that even you're likely going to be displaying her either with the alternate head sculpt or you're probably going to be displaying her with the headpiece on top. If you, though, remove it, you're still then getting a chance to see some nice additional sculpting and line added by the folks over at NECA Toys as well. Okay, so let's look at the articulation here for Renet. The head is on a ball joint, so yeah, it rotates all the way around. It looks up only by just a little bit, but it does look down a lot more. You can hinge the head also back and forth as well. The cape's going to be getting in the way of things, but you can also really technically remove the cape too. I mean, when you just pop the head off to replace it with the defaulted head or the alternate head sculpt, simply just remove the cape as a step in between before you then put the new head back in place. I think in both cases, though, I'm just going to keep the cape on the figure instead. Anyways, though, the upper torso is on a ball joint. Although the thing about it, though, is obviously with all the clocks so close together like this, it's a little harder to actually move the torso. And just be careful as well, because there's a couple of clocks like this one and this one here that stick further down beyond the point of the joint. So be careful when it comes to rotating the body. Arms do come out, though, at a 90-degree angle bend. You can take those arms and move them forward, and you can move them back. There's a bicep swivel. Figure does have a double hinge on the elbow, and hands, whatever hands you use to display with Renet, do rotate all the way around. Figure legs seem to be once again on ball joints, so you can take those legs and move them forward. You can move them back. There's softer plastic also I did want to point out here at the bottom of Renet's outfit, and there's a little bit of a mild swivel at the top of the thigh. Double hinge, though, on the knee. There is no articulation here for the boots, simply just a continued sculpt from the rest of the calf, though painted obviously a little bit different. Feet move up and down, and you can also ankle rock them as well. You know, again, like if I had only the choice and the budget to pick up only one figure, I feel I would lean more to getting the signature edition of Renet. Simply just because he's more reminding me of, obviously, the actual 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I always feel is like an overlooked turtle cartoon. Everybody always talks about the late 80s one that we did get, and everybody talks about the later released Turtle. Let's not always forget about the 2003 Turtles. Some actually, in fact, think that the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the most superior of the Ninja Turtle cartoons. Because I recognize her color scheme from that cartoon, and because, again, growing up and reading the Mirage comics, where a lot of times Renet was more depicted here in the blue color scheme, I think I'm more leaning towards getting this one if I only had the budget to get one figure. If, though, however, you get the chance and you get both figures, then again, you can also benefit from all the sculpting that NECA's artist and craft into these pieces by then being able to display Renet in two different looks. One unhelmeted with a full frock of hair, and then the other one with a time helmet on top of her head. What you're seeing here in Final Looks is Renet displayed in two different ways. I don't only just mean the color scheme that gets varied from one figure to the other, but the fact that the folks over at NECA did take the liberty of adding a secondary alternate head sculpt. So it means that not only is the color going to be changed, but you can also display the figure with two completely different heads. I love that. Though the accessories are exactly the same, the one thing that is also shared with the figure that you're not currently seeing here in Final Looks is Lord Simultaneous. Because the figure, or at least in that case, the character's head sculpt, is just, again, a floating head. There's really no means to actually display it straight out of the packaging the way that he is. He really needed himself like a standalone stand, something I think the folks over at NECA could have included with either one of Renet's, just a regular clear post with a very simple circular base, something at least that you could have Lord Simultaneous displayed with either one of these Renet's. Now, of the two, I still like the blue one a little bit more because I'm more used to seeing Renet in a more blue color scheme. But I gotta say, there's something rather interesting also about the retail release. The browns work really well with the bright reds that they ended up using. And the red on this one also reminds me of something also I would have expected to see from Flash Gordon. I called it Buck Rogers, but I was clearly thinking Flash Gordon. Of the two Renets, though, that we looked at in this review, have you had the chance to pick up either one of these? If you did, which one did you luckily get? If you didn't get the chance yet to pick up Renet, of this in the review that we had a look at both of them, which do you think is the better looking Renet? Let me know down below in the comment section. And again, once again, a big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys that did provide the sample not only of the regular retail release Renet, but also the signature edition, the one that's more closer to, again, the Mirage comics, and the way she appeared in the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon. If you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you're loving the content you guys are seeing and do want to stick around for more, if you haven't already done so, don't overlook the idea that hitting that subscribe button and turning on the bell notification helps not only this channel, but it also helps you to get the 411 of whenever new videos are going to be posting. And rest assured, I can tell you, the person behind the camera telling you, the person in front of the monitor, there's definitely going to be a lot more NECA reviews and other videos coming your way. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.